The incident took place in mid-March 1999. One early morning, as usual, a religious healer, after offering the Fajr prayer, sat down to recite the Holy Quran. Suddenly, he noticed that someone was sitting behind him, crying uncontrollably. Turning his head once, he saw a middle-aged man sitting with his head lowered, covering his face with both hands, weeping deeply. The religious healer did not look back a second time, because he knew this was a deeply personal and sincere moment between a servant and his creator. At such times, it is not appropriate to stare at someone or listen to their supplication. After finishing the recitation, when he looked back, the man was gone. He did not consider it a significant matter. The next day, the same thing happened. After the Fajr prayer, as he sat for recitation, he again heard the sound of crying. Looking back, he saw the same man from the previous day. This time, he seemed to be crying even more intensely. Just like before, the religious healer glanced once and turned his face away. After finishing the recitation, he noticed that the man had not left this time. Instead, he was in prostration, sujud, crying even more deeply. After observing for a moment, the religious healer quietly left the place. This continued almost every day. The man would come only at Fajr time, listen to the recitation, and then break down in tears. Interestingly, he was never seen at any other prayer time. Since it was a small locality, most of the regular worshippers knew each other, but this man was completely unfamiliar. Naturally, curiosity began to grow among them. One day, after the Fajr prayer, a worshipper waited for the mosque to empty. That day, due to being busy, the religious healer was reciting tasbih instead of the Quran. Suddenly, he heard two worshippers asking the man various questions: where he was from, why he came, and so on. But the man gave no response. He kept his head down and continued reciting tasbih silently. At one point, the worshippers became irritated and started speaking loudly. The religious healer approached them and said, "Why are you shouting inside the mosque? And why are you disturbing this man?" Feeling embarrassed, they replied, "We have been asking him questions for a long time, but he is not answering. We thought maybe he has difficulty hearing, so we raised our voices." They apologized and left. The religious healer then looked at the man and said, "When one Muslim speaks to another, it is important to listen attentively. Our beloved Prophet, peace be upon him, used to do so." Saying this, he walked away. However, for the first time, he had carefully observed the man's face. As he walked out of the mosque, he thought to himself, "These are not ordinary eyes. There is guilt, remorse, and a deep inner pain hidden within them." It seemed as though he had spent much of his life in wrongdoing and was now burning in repentance. After a while, the religious healer was working in his room when suddenly he heard shouting outside. Rushing out, he saw that the same man had fainted inside the mosque. A few teachers were trying to revive him by sprinkling water. The religious healer came closer and looked at him carefully. He noticed that the man's throat was trembling, like a sign of something unusual. He asked everyone to step aside, recited a supplication over a glass of water, blew into it, and sprinkled it on the man's face 3 times. After a moment, the man slowly opened his eyes, looking around. He felt embarrassed and sat up. The religious healer gave him the remaining water to drink and returned to his room. After a short while, the man himself came and stood at the door, greeted him with salam. The religious healer returned the greeting and said, "Come inside," and thus was about to begin a mysterious confession, behind which lay the true reason for the tears. He asked him to come inside. The man came and sat in front of the religious healer and asked, "Huzur, did you recite over the water?" When Hafiz Shah religious healer smiled and nodded his head, the man said, "My name is Farid. This fainting of mine is not a new problem, Huzur. However, within the last 3 years, for the first time after drinking your recited water, I feel a bit of peace inside." Hearing this, the religious healer said, "Why? Did you not feel peace before after drinking recited water?" 2 types of people feel peace from such water. 1, those who have left practicing magic, and 2, those who are affected by magic. Do you belong to either of these? After hearing this, the man named Farid nodded his head in agreement and said in a very faint voice, "Huzur, according to your words, I am a sinner of the first category." After hearing this, the religious healer said, "Then why have you come here?" The man said, "I did not come with any particular purpose, Huzur. For the last 3 years, I have been wandering from place to place. trying to return to the right path, but all paths seem closed for me. I find every path blocked. Hafiz Shah, religious healer, said, "The path to becoming good is never closed. Some people find it, some do not. For that, one needs Allah's mercy. It seems there is some obstacle in your path, which is why you think it is closed. In reality, it is not closed. Since you are wondering, I hope you will not mind being my guest tonight. After dinner, I will listen to how your journey on this path began, what your obstacles are, whether the obstacle is yourself or something else." Saying this, he made him sit in the office room, finished all his work, and later took him to his house. Arrangements were made for his rest at home. After dinner, sitting on the veranda, Hafiz Shah, religious healer, began to listen to a terrifying life story. Farid began to speak. Now I am telling in Farid's words. Farid said to the religious healer, "Huzur, please do not mind. Right now, a Muslim jinn is present in your house. I have seen him twice. Anyway, Huzur, you now know my name. My ancestral home was in Daudkandi Upazila of Camilla. I was the only child of my parents. My late father, Ilyas Hossein, was an accountant of a local madrasa in our area, and also a well-known kabiraj, traditional healer. However, he practiced kabiraji only following Islamic rules. From childhood, I was very fond of my father and his work. When I was very small, my mother did not allow me to watch his treatments. She did not want me to see those things. Especially when patients came, she would keep me locked inside. Although my father worked in a madrasa, he initially taught me there for a few years, and then sent me to school for further education. As I grew older, my interest in my father's work increased. From class 6, my mother's strictness became a bit relaxed, and whenever I got the chance, I would go into my father's workroom and read his kabiraji books. I did not understand everything, but I understood some parts. Within a few days, my father realized this. One night during dinner, he told me, "Farid, the things I do may seem good from the outside, but in reality, they are not good. I am sending you to school so that I do not bring you into this path. There are many dangers and troubles in this path. Do not show interest in these things." At that time I agreed, but I could never remove it from my heart. Whenever a patient came, I would secretly watch my father's treatment. Thus time passed. In 1976, at the age of 22, I passed intermediate. By then, all of my father's books were at my fingertips. One day my father said, "Farid, there is no good university here. If you want, you can go to Dhaka to complete your studies." To be honest, I was looking for such an opportunity to leave home, so without delay, I agreed. My elder uncle lived in Dhaka. My father gave me his address and put me on a vehicle one day, but I did not go to my uncle's house, nor did I stay in Dhaka. My childhood dream was to become a great kabiraj. To fulfill that goal, I set out in search of a good master. After a few days, I wrote everything in a letter to my parents. I knew they would be very hurt, but I was determined in my goal. I went to various kabirads and became their disciple, but I saw that most of them were frauds, or even if they knew something, it was very weak. I did find one or two good masters, but instead of teaching me, they made me do their personal and family work. I thought that by serving them, I might gradually win their hearts and learn something valuable, but they only used me for their personal work and did not teach me much. They realized that I could be made to do a lot of work, so they kept me busy with excuses. Thus it continued. But I realized that this would not work. In search of a true master, I spent a whole year wandering. During this time, I learned some minor skills, but they were not enough for me. I wanted to learn something great, through which I could gain real power. While searching one day, I found someone, but he lived far away in a village near the Sundarbans. His name was Manoj Kumar. Everyone called him Moina Thakur. In about 10-20 nearby villages, there was no kabiraj greater than him. Without thinking much, I collected the address and went to his village. It was 1977. Everyone in that area knew him, and when they mentioned his name, a sense of respect would appear on their faces and in their eyes. When I reached his house, I saw a middle-aged man wearing a dhoti and a rudraksha necklace. He asked me, "Who are you? Why are you looking for me?" When I told him my reason, he drove me away. As I was leaving, I saw some people bringing a man tied up tightly. From this, I understood that something was wrong with that man. Thinking I would see the power of this Thakur, I followed them inside. They placed the tied man in the courtyard and stepped back. After a while, Moina Thakur came out, looked at everyone, and then focused on the tied man. Someone from the side began explaining the man's condition. I listened to everything. The man had gone fishing near a canal in the Sundarbans 3 nights ago and did not return. After 3 days, some honey collectors found him unconscious in the mud near that canal. They brought him back to the village, but after regaining consciousness, he began behaving strangely, attacking and biting whoever came near, and speaking in a strange language that no one could understand. I also could not understand. It seemed like a different language. Frightened, everyone brought him to the thakur. The thakur listened while smoking his hookah. Then he went inside, brought something, muttered spells over it, and blew on it. After doing this for 2 minutes, he burned it in the hookah and began smoking again. Then he circled the tied man twice while chanting, sat in front of him, held his face with both hands, opened his mouth slightly, and blew the hookah smoke into his mouth and eyes. Immediately, the man started jumping and thrashing on the ground like a fish just taken out of water. The thakur repeated this 2 more times. After that, the man gradually calmed down. Everyone took the man away. In the past 1 year, I had seen many kabirajs, but I had never seen anyone finish such work so quickly, not even my father. I understood that this thakur could lead me to my goal. I requested him again to take me as his disciple, but he refused once more. In Moina Thakur's village, there were mostly Hindu families. That day, a little distance from Moina Thakur's house, I spent the night on the platform of a temple. The next morning, I went again to the thakur, but he still did not agree. Instead, he explained to me the same things my father used to say, that there is danger in this work. It should not be done. One should not come into this path. These kinds of works are not good. They are very terrifying. These kinds of things that I used to hear all the time. Moina Thakur told me the same again. After he finished speaking, I said, "Thakur, I know everything. Even knowing all this, I want to learn this knowledge. Please accept me as your disciple." This time Thakur became angry and pushed me out of the house. I felt very bad that day, but I did not lose patience. For the next few days, from morning till evening, I stayed in front of Thakur's house. People would come with various problems, and Thakur would treat them in the courtyard. I would watch. In the evening, if someone gave me something to eat, I would eat, and then go to sleep on the temple platform. One night, while lying like this, suddenly I heard from near my head, "Boy, are you sleeping?" Turning my head in the moonlight, I saw Moina Thakur standing. As I sat up, he gave me some food wrapped in banana leaves and said, "Eat, boy, eat. You probably haven't eaten all day." I quickly started eating because I was very hungry. Then Thakur said, "Son, I live alone. I never married because in this work I have made many enemies. Sometimes at night when I sleep alone, I feel that it would have been better if I had not come into this life. This is how my life has passed, but you still have such a beautiful time ahead of you. That is why I am forbidding you." While eating, I said, "Thakur, I understand everything, but still I want to learn. Please do not turn me away." Hearing my words, Thakur took a deep breath and said, "All right, I will accept you as a disciple on one condition. First, I will test your courage. Tomorrow you will go with me to a place. There I will give you a task. If you can do it, then I will accept you as my disciple. If you cannot, then I will leave you there and come back. Do you agree?" I was ready to agree to any condition, so I told him that I agreed. Then Thakur left. The next morning, I went in front of his house and saw that he had already bathed in the river early in the morning and was sitting in the courtyard wearing a new dhoti. Seeing me, he said, "Boy, have you eaten?" I shook my head no. He smiled and said, "Good, come inside. For today's work, it is better not to eat." Entering Moina Thakur's house, I understood why he did not allow anyone inside. His 2-room house was filled everywhere with Kabiraji items. Some I recognized from my father's house, but most of them were unfamiliar to me. After entering, he closed the door and made me sit on a prepared ritual seat on the earthen floor opposite him with a ritual fire burning. Then he began chanting mantras. This continued for a long time with various rituals. After that, he applied the juice of a certain leaf on my body and said, "You will stay in this room until evening. Sunlight must not touch your body." Saying this, he ended the ritual and went somewhere. He returned in the afternoon carrying 2 large swans. As evening fell, he said, "Come son, now let's go. And listen, you will only answer what I ask you. Do not say anything extra. Do not speak at all unless I ask. Not even a single sound. And whatever I do, you will do exactly that, or whatever I tell you, you will do that. Do not try to act smart on your own." Even after hearing all this, strangely, I did not feel fear. Instead, I felt a kind of excitement because I was about to achieve something. Following Thakur, carrying the two swans, we went to the riverbank. There I saw a small boat tied. We placed the swans in the boat and started rowing. After rowing for a long time, I noticed that we were entering deep into the Sundarbans. I thought about asking where we were going, but when I turned back and looked at Thakur in the lantern light, I saw that he was watching both sides of the river very cautiously and continuously murmuring mantras. I began to feel afraid, thinking that a crocodile might jump onto the boat at any moment, as that area had many crocodiles. After some time, our boat entered a small canal. After rowing for about half an hour more, we got down at a place like a temporary dock. After tying the boat properly, we took the swans and entered the forest. The night forest was alive. Sounds of various animals could be heard all around. It was one of the greatest experiences of my life. But Thakur paid no attention to these things. He kept moving forward, chanting mantras, and I followed him. After walking for about 20 to 25 minutes, we reached a strangely empty place inside the forest. It was strange because in the midst of dense trees like sal, teak and garyan, such an empty space should not exist. It looked as if someone had intentionally created this place. Thakur stood in the middle of that circular area, chanted some mantras, drew a circle, and tied the two swans there. Then he came to me, pulled me aside, and made me sit behind a bush at some distance from the swans. He said, "Listen, son, your task begins now. You see those two swans? After a while, a big tiger will come to eat them. This is not just any tiger, it is a very large one. After eating, if it sleeps there, you will slowly go near it, and with your right hand pull out as much of its fur as you can in one go. Then without turning your back to it, meaning you will keep facing it, you will step backward. Count exactly 30 steps backward, then slowly turn and go back to the boat. Do not be afraid. I will be near the boat, but you have to do this alone. I cannot help you here. This is your test of courage. Now take this and apply it on your body." Saying this, he gave me some of the same liquid that he had applied earlier in the morning. Hearing his instructions, I began to feel afraid. A strange, unknown fear started working inside me. As I rubbed the liquid all over my body, I felt the fear lessen a bit. Then, Thakur chanted some mantras, blew over my body, and slowly disappeared into the darkness, meaning he went back toward the boat. Then I kept waiting. I don't know how long I stared at those swans. It took a long time. I was thinking, why isn't the tiger coming? I started to feel a bit sleepy. Suddenly I heard a terrifying, monstrous roar. It felt like the entire forest was trembling. It was such a roar that if an ordinary person heard it, many would have a heart attack out of fear. I was also very scared. I know what a tiger's roar sounds like, but what I heard that day was not the roar of any normal tiger. It felt like that sound was coming from the very center of the earth, breaking through everything. Suddenly, I saw a gigantic, monstrous tiger coming out of the forest. The fur on its body seemed to be glowing like light. A kind of radiance was coming out of its body, and that light illuminated the entire empty area. I saw the tiger slowly come forward, sniff the swans, and then bite one on the neck. Within moments, it swallowed it, and then moved to the second one. Almost immediately, without making any sound, the tiger seemed to fall asleep or lose consciousness. It lay down on the ground. Seeing this, I didn't delay. As the Thakur had instructed, I moved closer to the tiger. As I got near, I realized this was no ordinary tiger. It was at least 3 times bigger than a normal Royal Bengal tiger, a monstrous creature. Holding my breath as I touched its fur with my right hand, I suddenly felt like whispers began all around me in the forest. The hair on my body stood up in fear. Still, I held my breath and started pulling out some of its fur. I managed to pull out several strands. As I started running out of breath, I slowly began stepping backward. The tiger did not wake up or regain consciousness while I was doing this. I had taken about 10-12 steps back, keeping the tiger in front of me, when suddenly I saw several dark, black masses emerging from the forest, floating in the air. They surrounded the tiger and began making horrifying wailing sounds. Hearing them, more and more dark figures appeared and joined in, making the same eerie noise. I may have miscounted, as I was supposed to take 30 steps backward while facing the tiger. Somehow I counted up to 30 in my own way. As soon as I turned around after counting, all those dark masses suddenly stopped making any sound at once. It was as if everything froze. A deep silence fell over the entire forest. Not even a single insect made a sound. I turned my head and looked back in the moonlight. All those figures were now facing directly toward me, standing still, as if they were watching me. Slowly, they began moving toward me. I understood that I wouldn't be able to escape. They would finish me right there. I stood still, thinking my life was over. But strangely, those figures surprised me. They passed beside me, above me, and spread out along the path I had come from, as if searching for something. Then I realized they could not see me, but they could sense my presence. They were looking for me. I didn't waste any more time. I started walking back, then began running. Again and again, I felt like they would grab me from behind at any moment, but no one came. Eventually, I reached the boat and saw Mona Thakur performing a ritual on the ground, chanting mantras. As soon as I arrived, he opened his eyes, saw me, and sighed in relief. He took me onto the boat. Out of extreme fear and exhaustion, I lost consciousness as soon as I got on the boat. When I regained my senses, I found myself lying in Mona Thakur's house. He was sitting beside my head. Seeing me awake, he smiled and said, "Well done, boy. You did it. After you recover a bit, your initiation will begin. Now give me the fur." I had kept the fur in 2 pockets. I took out the ones from one pocket and gave them to him. I asked, "Thakur, what will these be used for?" Instead of answering, he said, "That's all right. You don't have any more?" I nodded no, but actually I still had some in the other pocket. I was a bit doubtful about what he would do with them. I felt that what I had already given should be enough. My conscience and mind told me not to give everything. Anyway, Thakur took the fur I gave him and went inside. 2 days later, my initiation began. Watching his methods, I realized that none of this was supported by any religion. Especially Islam does not support such practices. These were completely different kinds of rituals that do not match the general rules of any religion. But thinking about that didn't matter to me then. What I wanted was power. I didn't have the awareness to understand what is halal and what is haram. Thakur loved me like his own son. After learning from him for 4 years continuously, one day he called me and said, "Son, your initiation is complete. If you want, you can stay here and work with me, or you can leave." I told him that I have parents and I want to go back. They must be worried and crying for me. After some days, I packed everything and left. Mona Thakur bid me farewell with tears in his eyes. Leaving him behind, I returned to my village. But after returning home, I faced a terrifying reality in my life for the first time. After so many years, when I returned home, my mother could not hold back her tears. People from the area came to see me. Relatives who lived far away also came after hearing the news. Everyone had different questions. Where had I been all these years? What had I been doing? Many of them had thought I was probably dead. But I, unfortunate as I was, returned home after all those years. I had left my family and spent that time learning herbal medicine, tantra, black magic, and forbidden practices. And the person I wanted to show all this to. When I came back, I heard that he had died 6 months earlier. He had gone to Dhaka to treat a relative we knew, and there he fell from a rooftop and died. That person was none other than my father. Hearing this news, I cried a lot. It's true I'd stayed away from my family, but I loved my father deeply. All my struggles, all my learning, he never got to see it. After that, for quite some time, I stayed away from tantra practices. I didn't tell the people in my area the full truth. They only knew that I had learned herbal healing. My mother was still alive then, so to support her, I got involved in other work. At the same time, I kept waiting for the right opportunity, something that would allow me to shock everyone and begin practicing my knowledge openly. I didn't have to wait long. One afternoon, after returning home and sitting down to eat, I asked my mother, "Ma, why did father go to Dhaka?" She said, "Your cousin Javed's family was having some strange problems. So Javed came himself with a car and took your father. After 3 days, your father returned in that same car, but wrapped in a shroud." Saying this, my mother started crying. I didn't ask anything more, but one thing kept circling in my mind. I had to find out what work my father had gone there for. After a few days, taking the address, I went to Dhaka, to my cousin's house, to find out the truth. My cousin lived in the Dalpur area of Dhaka. My uncle had earned a lot of money through business and built a house there. My father used to visit often, but it was my first time going there. It was a new place, and I had some trouble finding it, but eventually I did. When I knocked on the door, my cousin opened it slightly and peeked outside to ask who it was. When I introduced myself, he stared at me in shock for a moment. Then he came outside, hugged me tightly and said, Brother, believe me, none of us are responsible for Uncle's death. We still don't understand what happened. I said, we'll talk about that later. First, let me come inside. Or are you going to send me away from here? Hearing this, he felt embarrassed and quickly stepped aside, letting me in. As soon as I entered the house, I felt something was wrong. The place didn't feel good. There was a sense of fear lingering everywhere. The air had a strange burnt smell. I sat in the living room. My cousin came close and said in a low voice, "You sit here, I'll call Mother." After a while, my aunt came out from inside with a beautiful little girl of about 6 or 7 years old. As soon as she entered, my aunt scolded me softly. Why had I left home like that without telling anyone? How could someone just disappear like that, and so on? After a while, she started crying. I tried to comfort her. Meanwhile, my cousin brought some food. Seeing this, I asked him, "Where is my sister-in-law? I don't see her." The moment I said that, he quickly covered my mouth and whispered, "Speak softly, brother. If she wakes up, there will be trouble." I noticed that just hearing about her, the little girl hid herself in her grandmother's chest in fear. I thought maybe my sister-in-law was physically ill and sleeping, which is why everyone was being so careful. I quietly finished eating. My uncle had died about 5 years ago. I wasn't there at the time. We were all sitting and talking in low voices when suddenly, from inside the house, several loud, deep, almost masculine screams erupted all at once. The sound made my heart jump. I saw that my cousin, my aunt, and the little girl, her name was Soma, were all terrified. When I heard the scream again, I asked my cousin, "Who is making that sound?" In a very helpless voice, he replied, "That is your sister-in-law." I was shocked. There was no way a woman's voice could sound that terrifying. My cousin gathered some courage, stood up and said, "Come, I'll show you. That will be better, you won't believe otherwise." I followed him. We walked to a room and stood in front of the door. I noticed something like an amulet hanging on it. My cousin went inside first. After a minute or two, he called, "Come in." As soon as I entered the room, I was shaken to my core. What I saw, was that even human? From the face down to the exposed parts of the body, there were deep scratch marks everywhere. Her entire body looked pale. Her eyes, there was nothing but the white part, no black pupil at all. Even the iris seemed completely white. Her clothes were barely covering her. My cousin had tried to pull them over her body. It was clear why. Both her hands were tied to the bed. As soon as I entered, she turned her face toward me, gave a horrifying smile and said, "So, the tantric has finally arrived. You should have come much earlier. If you had, your herbalist father wouldn't have had to die." I stayed silent and listened. She spoke again. "What are you thinking? Who I am? You won't recognize me. I only came to deliver a message. But now that I've come here, I don't feel like leaving anymore. Do you know what message I came to deliver? The message is, your time has begun." After saying this, while still lying down, she bent her knees and tried to push her face between them. Her hands were tied on both sides, yet she kept swaying left and right, laughing in a strange, disturbing way. Seeing all this, I called my cousin from outside and said, "Brother, come here." He was standing a little distance away. I told him, "I will treat your wife. Keep her locked in this room until tomorrow. If needed, tie her even more securely. Under no circumstances should she be allowed to come out. Tomorrow morning I'll gather everything I need, and at night I'll perform the ritual on your rooftop." Hearing this, my cousin objected strongly at first, but when I insisted, he held my hand and said, "Brother, I don't want anything bad to happen to you, but I also want my wife to get better." I asked, "How did all this start? When did it begin? Tell me." Then he began explaining. "It all started about a year ago. One night while sleeping, your sister-in-law suddenly woke up screaming and started crying. No matter how many times we asked, she wouldn't say why. The next morning, everything was normal again. But later, while cooking, she suddenly screamed and called out, 'Javid, what is this? Come quickly!' When I ran into the kitchen, I saw her lying on the floor, writhing, with reddish foam coming out of her mouth. While trying to figure out what had happened, I noticed something move quickly outside the kitchen window. But there was no time to check. Seeing her condition, I panicked and rushed her to a doctor. Shortly after reaching there, she regained consciousness and became normal again. But after a couple of days, her behavior started becoming abnormal. She kept saying that black smoke was moving around. Inside the house, floating in different places, even though there was no source of smoke, everyone in the house became afraid. And Soma, my daughter, she is always terrified whenever her mother wakes up. There's a reason for that too. One day, I came home and saw that your sister-in-law had left Soma with her grandmother and gone to bathe. Suddenly, hearing my mother scream, I rushed out and saw that she had grabbed Soma by the throat. My mother was trying to pull her away. With great difficulty, I managed to free Soma and locked her in a room. We even sent her to her parents' house for some time, but her madness didn't stop, so we brought her back. After that, we took her to many religious healers. They all took money and left. Then one day, my mother said, "Go bring your uncle. He has been practicing herbal healing for a long time." At first, I didn't want to go. People were a bit afraid of him. He worked with Jinn and such things. Also, it wasn't certain whether he would even come to Dhaka. But after thinking for a few days, having no other option, I went to the village and brought him. After hearing everything, he felt very sorry and came with me. The day he arrived, as soon as he entered the house, he frowned and asked, "Have you burned hair or something here? Why does it smell so bad?" I said, "No, why would we burn hair? I don't smell anything." Without saying anything more, he performed ablution and went straight into her room. Seeing him, she screamed, "Kobiraj, bring my master's belongings. My master can't wait any longer, otherwise there will be destruction." Ignoring that, he sat beside her, placed his hand on her forehead, and started reciting something. After a while, she calmed down and became normal. She then asked, "Javed, who is he?" I told her, "He is our uncle. He has come to treat you." Then she asked, "Uncle, is your son's name Farid?" When he confirmed, she told me to leave the room. She wanted to speak with him privately. I went outside. Later, when I asked Uncle what she had said, he refused to tell me. He only said, "Not everything should be known, son. This is something you should not know." After that, I didn't ask again. That same day, she became completely normal. She even got up and started cooking. Uncle then said he would spend time alone on the rooftop and that no one should go there. He said he would communicate with the Jinn he worked with, but he was very tired, so he would rest that night and begin work the next day. The next morning was fine, but from noon, her restlessness started again. Uncle had gone out somewhere at that time. He returned after the Maghrib prayer. After seeing her once, he told me he was going to the rooftop and that no one should go to that side. A little later, we heard shouting from outside. Looking down from the balcony, we saw a crowd had gathered. Some familiar people were calling my name. I rushed downstairs and saw that Uncle had fallen from the rooftop and was critically injured. I immediately took him to the hospital, but before the doctors could even begin treatment, he died in my arms. After telling all this, Javed said to me, "Believe me, brother, I did everything I could to take him quickly, but I don't know what happened. That was the first day my car's tire got punctured after buying it. It stopped in the middle of the road. Everything kept going wrong. But on the way back, everything was completely fine. Now you tell me, was it my fault?" After hearing everything, I sat there silently for a while. Then I said, "Brother, tomorrow morning I will bring some things, and I'll tell you a few items. Please gather those for me. I'll handle the rest myself." After saying this, I went back to my sister-in-law's room and saw that she was asleep. Taking this opportunity, I sealed the area around her bed with flour over which I had recited incantations, and then came out. I told everyone that until I finished the work the next day, no one should open the door of that room. Accordingly, the next day everything was arranged, and by evening, the work began. When I said I would perform the ritual on the roof, my brother was not willing at all, because my father had died after falling from that very place. Eventually, he agreed on one condition, that he would stay there with me. I agreed as well. He simply didn't want to leave me alone under any circumstances. So I went up to the roof and prepared my ritual seat. I sat exactly at a spot that was directly above where my sister-in-law was lying, meaning the room right beneath me where she was resting. First, I summoned several demonic-class Jinn who were loyal to me and worked under my command. I instructed my brother again not to open his eyes or move from his place until I told him to. When my preparations were complete, I began calling the entity residing inside my sister-in-law. After some time, suddenly there was a loud thud on top of the roof's water tank. I looked and saw a mass of darkness, just a dense, shifting lump of shadow. I understood that it had arrived. but it was impossible to distinguish its head, hands, or legs. It was just a formless cluster of darkness. At my signal, the demonic Jinn under my command seized it and began beating it mercilessly. The entire house trembled from the intensity of their assault. After a while, the entity screamed out, "Oh, Tantric! Tell them to stop. They will kill me. I didn't come here by my own will. Tell them to stop." Hearing its cries, I ordered them to stop. Then I asked, "Why did you attack this family?" It replied, "I acted under my master's command." I asked, "Who is your master? What enmity does he have with this family?" At this question, it fell silent. I warned it again, "If you don't want to be beaten again, speak quickly." Then it said, "Even if you beat me to death, I cannot reveal my master's name. I am under strict orders, but I can tell you this much. I did not kill your father. My master pushed him from this roof. I understood that it wouldn't say anything more, so I cleverly said, 'Fine, I release you. But if you ever come near this house again, I will kill you completely. Now get lost.' As soon as it left, I sent my summoned Jinn after it to find out whom it served. But unfortunately, those 4 or 5 loyal Jinn of mine never returned. I never found out what really happened, whether they were captured, killed, or turned into its followers. I tried calling them many times, but none responded. Even other Jinn couldn't provide any information about them. After finishing everything, I turned around and saw my brother lying unconscious. I rushed to him and sprinkled water on his face, and after some time, he regained consciousness. He later said that at one point he opened his eyes and, seeing the brutal beating by the demonic Jinn, fainted from fear. Anyway, we went downstairs and saw my aunt holding my sister-in-law tightly and crying, while also holding my niece. My sister-in-law had tears in her eyes too, but these were tears of relief and happiness. As my brother approached them, I quietly stepped away and went into the sitting room, where I sat alone and thought about the words of that entity. So many questions, yet no answers. After some time, my brother came and said, "Farid, your sister-in-law is calling you." As I entered her room, I immediately felt that the atmosphere had become much lighter. I understood that the danger had passed. Sitting beside her, she spoke weakly. "Brother, I don't know what you did or how you did it, but I feel completely fine now. I feel light, as if a huge burden has been lifted off my head. I had so much to tell you, but now I can't remember anything." I told her, "You don't need to say anything now. Just recover. When you remember later, you can tell me then." I stayed there for about a week. Once she recovered somewhat, I gave her some protective remedies and returned to my village. Before leaving, I told my brother to arrange something for me in Dhaka. I wanted to stay there. I didn't have to wait long. After about 2 months, my brother sent someone to bring me to Dhaka. He arranged a 2-room place for me on the roof of a building in the Dolaipar area. The place was perfect for my work. Then began the prosperous phase of my life. At first, I didn't get much work, but gradually, with my brother's help, my work increased. Along with it came good income. I brought my mother from the village, but she didn't like my line of work. She forbade me from practicing these occult arts, but at that time, money meant everything to me. Unable to tolerate it, my mother returned to the village. I didn't stop her because she was interfering with my work. I sent her a large amount of money every month. After her death, I found out that she used that money to fund the education of several orphan children, but never spent a single penny on herself. Years passed like this. Eventually, I felt that the income from exorcisms, magic removals, and finding lost items wasn't enough for me. I needed bigger work. One day, I hinted this to a wealthy female client of mine who used to come regularly and got results from my work. I told her I wasn't satisfied with small tasks and would leave the area if I didn't find something bigger. She stayed silent for a while and then said, "Actually, I do have such a job, but I'm not sure what you'll think." I asked, "What kind of job?" She replied, "Not now. Tomorrow I'll come with my husband. He will explain it better." The next evening, she arrived with her husband. I was writing down a method in my notebook when they entered. I closed it and invited them to sit. I noticed that the man, Mishu, had very sharp and cunning eyes. My guru, Thakur Thakur, had taught me that such eyes belong to extremely clever and dangerous individuals. Without any introduction, Mishu said, "My wife told me about you. I have a job for you. It's highly confidential and must be done with extreme caution. Whether you accept it or not, no one must ever know about it." That's the condition. I agreed to his condition. Then he said, "Your job is to kill someone, not by illness, but to remove him completely from this world." I was shocked by how casually he said it, as if death meant nothing to him. I already suspected he wasn't a good man, and this confirmed it. I asked, "Who do you want to kill?" He replied, "My own elder brother. We've had disputes over property and business shares. The problem will be solved if I remove him. If it were someone else, I could hire people. But since he is my own brother, I want it done in such a way that no one suspects anything. No police, nothing. I have no other option." Then he added, "Don't worry. If you complete the job, you will receive a large sum of money and an additional reward beyond your imagination." After that, when I heard the amount of money, my mind stopped working. In exchange for this job, I would be paid 1 lakh taka. This was the 80s, and at that time, 1 lakh was a huge amount. I didn't think much and agreed. I told them to bring some personal items of the person I would perform black magic on. Inside, I felt hesitation, but greed defeated my conscience. 3 days later, when they brought everything, I began the ritual. I don't want to describe those impure, forbidden acts. Over the course of 3 days, in a total of 5 phases, I completed the work and sent a demonic entity after him. Exactly 67 days later, Mishu's elder brother died. About 2 weeks after his death, Mishu came to me, gave me the money, and also transferred a piece of land in my name in the Gopibag area of Dhaka. He said, "You don't have to suffer living in rented places anymore. Build a nice house here. I'll take care of the construction materials. I've officially transferred this land to you." I understood everything, but deep inside I couldn't truly feel happy with that earning. From then on, because of Mishu, many powerful and wealthy people started coming to me. I began accumulating immense wealth, mostly from doing evil deeds. Years passed like this. In 1990, I got married. For the first 5 years after marriage, I lived a very luxurious life. My own house, lots of money, a beautiful wife, everything. But in the midst of all this, one thing went wrong. When I found out that my wife could never become a mother, somewhere deep inside I felt that this was the beginning of the consequences of my sins. And then began the dark chapter. On a stormy, rainy evening in 1995, Mishu arrived again, this time with a man named Sarju Sikdar. Compared to all my previous clients, this man was far more powerful in terms of wealth, influence, and authority. After introducing himself, he slowly began talking about the work. He was an influential political leader from a district in southern Bengal and also had various legal and illegal businesses in Dhaka. His job was similar to Mishu's, but this time it felt much more complicated. This time, I was told to cast death magic on all the male members of a family, so that within 3 months, all the men in that household would die. Only then could he contest in the upcoming local election scheduled 8 months later. He had no other option. The reason was that although that family wasn't very wealthy, they had a strong reputation and public support in the area. In contrast, Sarju had money but no popularity. When I suggested he take a different political route, he cut me off and said, "The people I'm asking you to deal with are my own elder uncle, the current chairman, his 2 sons, the elder son's 2 sons, and the younger son's 1 son. You will take care of these 6 people. As long as any of them are alive, they will be obstacles to me." He continued, "Whether I take nomination or not, what I do, that's none of your concern. Politics is complicated. You won't understand. Don't give me advice on things you don't understand. Just do the job you're given. Kill them all. Don't leave even one alive." After saying this, Sarju took out a bundle of 50,000 taka and handed it to me, saying, "Take this and start the work. You'll get more later, whatever you ask for." I noticed that his tone was not a request, it was an order. Everyone else used to request me, but this man commanded me. After they left, I became deeply troubled. The problem was, with my knowledge, I could cast a death spell on only one person from a family. I could make other blood-related members sick, but that also took time, around 77 days. I had no idea how to accomplish this within such a short time. After thinking a lot, an idea came to my mind. Maybe I could take help from Mona Thakur. The next morning, I left Dhaka for his house. On the way, I felt a bit afraid, whether I would find him alive or not. When I reached, I did find him, but he was no longer the same Mona Thakur. He was lying on a bed, old, frail, and extremely poor. One of his eyes was completely blind from cataract, and the other was also affected. When I called him, he slowly got up and asked me to sit beside him. To be honest, instead of feeling sympathy, I felt irritated seeing his condition. I thought maybe I had made a mistake coming here. Perhaps he couldn't even work anymore, no clients, no income, and might even ask me for money. Despite my reluctance, I sat beside him. He gently touched my face and said, "Boy, why do I smell blood from your body?" That means my instincts weren't wrong. I knew you would come to me one day, and I also knew that your greed would bring you here. Then he said, "Now tell me quickly why you've come and leave. I can't tolerate this smell of blood from you." His words made me extremely angry, but he was my guru, so I didn't argue and directly told him the reason for my visit. After hearing me, he let out a long sigh and said, "What you're about to do is not right. What you've done before is one thing, but the kind of magic needed to wipe out an entire bloodline within a fixed time. You're not ready for that yet. Leave this job," I replied. "I can't leave it, Thacker. I've already taken advance payment, and the man behind this job is very powerful. If I back out now, it will be me who suffers." Hearing everything I said, Mona Thakur replied, "Oh my child, don't do this work. That man won't be able to harm you. I will handle the matter." Hearing this, I lost control over myself and, in an angry voice, said, "Thakur, one of your eyes is blind from cataract and you can barely see with the other. You can't even see what's right in front of you, and you'll solve my problem." Then I added, "Anyway, I didn't come to you empty-handed. Just tell me what needs to be done for this work. In return, I'll give you a large sum of money so you can live comfortably for a few years." Hearing this, Mona Thakur burst into a hollow laugh and said, "Oh my foolish boy, you tried to weigh a Thakur with money, and that too with money earned from the very knowledge you learned from me. I don't need anything from you. What I was meant to take from you, I already took long ago. You wouldn't even understand what that was." Then he continued, "Listen, no single tantric can perform this kind of magic alone. For such work, one must take help from powerful Jinn sorcerers, but taking their help means selling yourself completely to them, and you have no idea what that leads to." I replied, "Thakur, what will happen to me is not your concern. Just tell me whose help would be best." He said, "It's better not to take anyone's help for this, but since you are stubborn, I can give you just one name. Nothing more." I said, "Just the name is enough. I'll handle the rest." After thinking silently for a moment, he said, "His name is Nahud Fedala. That name itself is terror, another name for fear, a ruthless and cunning black magic Jinn of the Ifrit class. He is as cruel as he is intelligent. He is the leader of a powerful dark lineage known as Sun. Staying away from him is the safest choice." He didn't finish the sentence, and I didn't insist either. I had already gotten what I needed. When I tried to give him money, he refused. He said, "That money is stained with fresh blood. I won't take it." I didn't stay any longer. As I was leaving, he called out from behind, "Son, if you ever work with Nahud Fedala, think very carefully before agreeing to his terms." That was the last time I ever saw Mona Thakur. I spent the night at a residential hotel in a nearby town and returned to Dhaka the next morning. As soon as I got back, I sent my wife to her parents' house. That very night, I sat for ritual and tried every method I knew to summon Nahud Fedala, but all attempts failed. After 3 days of failure, I sent one of my subordinate demonic Jinn to deliver my invitation to him. That night after dinner, I went to sleep. It must have been very late. I don't know the exact time. Suddenly, a loud thud woke me up. Lying still with my eyes closed, I tried to figure out what the sound was. Then I felt my bed gently shaking. At first, I thought it was an earthquake, but when I opened my eyes, I saw nothing but dense black darkness all around. I was sitting on my bed, floating in what felt like an endless sea of darkness. There was no light at all, not even from outside, which was strange because Dhaka is always full of lights. I panicked. Did the electricity go out? How do I get out of this darkness? While I was thinking, suddenly, right in front of my feet, a horrifying severed head dropped onto my bed. Even in that darkness, I could see it clearly. It was grotesque beyond imagination. No living creature could have such a distorted face. Terrified, I crawled backward and began reciting protective incantations, but I kept forgetting them. Then, from somewhere within the darkness, a terrifying voice echoed. It sounded like the voices of men, women, children, elders, and even animals, all speaking together in one voice. It said, "So, Tantric, you invited me and now you're afraid. "Do you know whose head this is? This was the Jinn you sent with your invitation. He dared to come to me carrying your message like some insignificant servant, so I cut off his head and left it for you." It continued, "Remember this. Next time you want to meet me, you will first perform my worship before calling me. There is a specific method to summon me and how to worship me. You'll find it inside that head. Now leave my presence." As soon as the voice ended, it felt like my bed was flipping over in that void. I grabbed the edge tightly and screamed, closing my eyes in fear. Moments later, everything was normal again. I was back in my room, but I hadn't been dreaming, because that severed head was still lying on my bed. That night, I didn't dare do anything. I put the head into a sack and sat in my ritual room. Toward dawn, I fell asleep. In the morning, when I woke up, the head was no longer that horrifying form. It had transformed into the head of a pig. Shocked, I picked it up and realized it was hollow. Inside, I found 2 leather pouches. In the first one, I found instructions written in pure Sanskrit on how to summon Nahud Fadala. I understood it because Mona Thakur had taught me that language. But the second pouch couldn't be opened at all. There was no visible opening, and I feared tearing it might destroy whatever was inside, so I left it untouched. After what I experienced just to send an invitation, I was too afraid to seek his help. I was fairly skilled in my practice, but every practitioner knows their limits, and I realized Nahud Fadala was far beyond anything I had ever encountered. That day, I finally understood. I should have listened to Mona Thakur. After thinking all day, I decided I wouldn't do this job. I would return the money. I informed Mishu of my decision, and he relayed it to Saju Sikdar. 2 days later, Saju arrived at my house with several men, and Mishu was with him. Without saying a word, he slapped me violently. Then he pulled out a firearm, pointed it at my head, and said, "I don't want to hear no. I've explained everything to you. You have no choice. You will do this job. If you don't, I'll have to eliminate you. You know too much now. If you ever speak, it will be a problem for me, and I'm going into politics. I have to be careful." Then he added, "Take more money if you want, but you will do this job." After saying that, they left. I can't even describe the situation I was in. Finally, I decided this would be my last job. After this, I would never perform such deadly rituals again. After gathering everything, a few days later, I performed multiple offerings and strange rituals, and then prayed for Nahud Fadala's help. By the time I finished, it was around 1 or 2 at night. Sitting on my ritual seat, I began chanting the invocation mantra and went into deep focus. Suddenly, on the opposite side of the room, I saw the floor cracking open, and from it, a thick green smoke began rising slowly. It grew larger and larger, eventually touching the ceiling and spreading throughout the room, surrounding me completely. I was terrified. Then, just as suddenly as it appeared, the smoke vanished, and from within it emerged a massive figure draped in pale black cloth. Around me stood several tall, shadowy, bodiless forms. It was clear the giant figure was their leader. In a harsh voice, it spoke, "Tantric, I do not speak much with humans. The task you seek help for will be done, but in return, whatever I ask, you must give without question." Its voice sounded like all living beings speaking at once. I replied, "O leader of the sun lineage, welcome. Forgive me. What could a lowly tantric like me possibly offer someone as great as you?" Before I could finish, I noticed the candles in my ritual room dim suddenly. Not extinguished, but weakened. Nahud Fadala floated toward me and said coldly, "I don't like flattery. Answer only what I ask, nothing more. You cannot gain anything from me with sweet words. I am no one's servant. I follow only Satan, my master, and I will not do anything extra for you." And there was no mercy for me in his mind, so there was no point in saying any of this. "I'm telling you again, only answer exactly what I ask, nothing more. If I do your work, you will give me what you stole many years ago, the tiger fur from the Sundarbans. Do you remember? I will do your work, and in return, you will give that to me. Do you agree?" I was extremely shocked to hear this, because no one knew about that fur except me. I had given some things to Mona Thakur, but the ones that were in the other pocket, I never gave those to him. Even Mona Thakur doesn't know about them. After bringing those, I made something like an amulet out of it and kept it hanging around my neck. To be honest, I myself had forgotten about the fur, but how did Nahud Fadal know this? This question came to my mind, but I pushed it aside. I couldn't ask him, because if I questioned him, he would question me in return, and I would have to answer. Besides, for such a powerful Jinn, knowing this is not a big deal, and the fur wasn't useful to me anyway. So without thinking too much, I agreed to his condition in a single word. Then, Nahud said that everything I needed to do was written inside that second skin. Whatever I needed, I would find inside it. Hearing this, I said, "But Sardar, I can't open it." Nahud gave a mocking smile and said, "Without my command, not even a tantric 1,000 times more powerful than you could open it. Now I command it, open. When your work is done, I will come to take what is mine. You have promised to give me what I asked. If you don't, you know very well what your fate will be." Saying this, they all vanished in the same green smoke that rose from beneath his feet. The floor, from where they had emerged, looked completely normal. Even though they had been there all this time, I hadn't seen any of their faces. After they left, I sat with that second skin pouch. With very little effort, it opened. Inside, I found 3 pumpkin seeds and a small amount of bright red soil powder. Setting those aside, I found a piece of paper inside the pouch. I read all the instructions written on it and learned the rules of the magic. I started the work. After completing some steps, I placed certain black magic writings inside the head of that impure creature that had been given to me. Over those writings, I added ashes collected from cremation grounds, ashes of those who had committed suicide. I covered everything with that ash, placed the pumpkin seeds on top, and mixed them with the red soil powder, pressing it all together. Then, according to the rules, the soil had to be moistened with blood, the blood of the one performing the magic, the one ordering it, and the practitioner. Since I was present, I used my own blood, but I noticed something strange. The moment I gave the blood, it completely disappeared. Not even a drop remained, and the soil didn't become wet at all. Where did the blood go? But then again, things in magic don't always follow normal logic. After finishing all the chants, it was almost noon. I ate something lightly and went to Saju Sikda. I told him my work was done. Now his job was to collect leftover food from those who were to be targeted. If not, then hair, nails, or any unwashed clothing they had worn. Within a week, Saju gathered everything: hair, nails, worn clothes, whatever he could find. I placed all those items on the soil and covered them with one of Saju's used garments. I had also asked him for his own hair, nails, and a used cloth, because I had a special intention. By including his things, I made him part of the curse. After tying everything in a red cloth, we went at night to a hidden place within 90 yards of the target house, somewhere covered with bushes where sunlight doesn't reach and people don't go. We buried it there. On the way back, Saju kept apologizing for the slap he had given me earlier. If I were an ordinary man, I might have forgiven him, but I am a sinner, a tantric. I did not forgive him. Instead, I ensured he would also suffer. After everyone else died, his torment would begin. He would either die slowly or lose his sanity and wander like a madman before dying. 11 days later, Saju came to me, overjoyed, saying the magic had started working. When I asked how he knew, he said his younger nephew, just 10 years old, had suddenly died 2 nights ago after vomiting blood. At the funeral, he also heard that his uncle had fallen seriously ill. For the first time in my life, I felt deep regret. I had done such magic before, but never had I harmed innocent children. After Saju left, I thought for a long time and decided I would at least try to save the remaining children. But I didn't know how to break this magic. It involved Nahud Fadal, and removing it would require his help, but I couldn't just summon him like that. That evening, I called some of my old demonic jinns. Many of them were already dead, but the remaining ones came. I asked them, but none could help. I searched through all my books, even my father's old texts, but found nothing. At dawn, hearing the call to prayer, I stepped out onto the balcony. Suddenly, a voice came from the rooftop. "Don't give that fur to Nahud, boy. You hid it even from your master, but be warned, never hand it over to him." I looked up and clearly saw a monkey standing on the roof, staring down at me, and it was the one speaking. Even though it was morning, there was a strange darkness around. The moment our eyes met, the monkey ran to the other side of the roof. I went back inside, wondering what I had just heard. Maybe it was my imagination. I hadn't slept properly all night, but the voice, it wasn't unfamiliar. It was Mona Thakur's voice. He had warned me not to give the fur, but why? He didn't even know about it. As I was lost in these thoughts, suddenly I heard a monkey's loud, agonizing scream. Many people around woke up and came out, but nothing could be found anywhere. Even though I couldn't fully understand the situation, I realized one thing, that the dead Thacker had warned me through a monkey-formed Jinn, and right after that, perhaps that Jinn had been killed. Maybe one of Nahud Fadal's loyal demonic Jinns had killed that monkey-shaped Jinn. After that, I understood that I would soon fall into great danger, so without wasting any time, as soon as daylight broke, I secretly set out towards Saju's uncle's house, the place where the death spell had been buried. Because the roads were not good, it was almost afternoon by the time I arrived. I waited until evening, and when I got the chance, I went to the place where the magical object had been buried. Digging into the soil, I found that it was not there. I was shocked. I thought maybe I had dug in the wrong place, so I started digging around nearby, but I had marked the exact spot with a special sign, and the mark was still there. Then why was the object missing? Had someone taken it? I became deeply worried. But as I kept digging around, just about a hand's distance away from that spot, I found the magical materials exactly as they were. I quickly picked them up. Then, beneath the head of that impure creature, I placed a small portion of the tiger fur and made it into an amulet, wrapped it in black cloth, and using various mantras I knew, I somehow managed to connect it with the spell. Then I buried it again. This time, my intention was different. I had done whatever I knew to break the spell, but I knew it wouldn't work. So instead, I mixed the fur into the magic itself, making it part of the spell. That was my real intention. There was a specific reason behind it. 3 or 4 days later, Saju Sikdar came to meet me. I saw that he was very worried. He told me that his uncle had been admitted to the hospital and was in critical condition. I said, "That should be good news for you. Then why are you worried?" Saju said, "Farid, for the past 2 days I haven't been able to sleep properly. Whenever I sleep, I see terrifying dreams. Last night, I saw that everyone in my uncle's house was cutting flesh from the body of the child who died and cooking it joyfully. I tried to stop them in the dream, but they didn't listen. After cooking, they tied my hands and feet and took me to that bushy place where the magical items were buried. And there they forced me to eat the child's flesh. Tell me, Farid, how can I sleep after seeing such dreams? I don't know what's happening. If you can, do something for me." Hearing this, I smiled to myself, but outwardly I comforted him, gave him some blessed water, and sent him away. After that, I never saw him again. About a year ago, I heard that he had gone completely insane, wandering without clothes, utterly mad. Anyway, the night Saju left, my wife and I were sleeping. Suddenly, I woke up hearing a strange humming sound from my workroom, like I locked my body, paralyzed myself with fear, and slowly moved toward the room. There I saw many figures, just like the shadowy beings that had come with Nahud Fadal, kneeling and swaying back and forth, chanting something in an unknown language, making that humming sound. From behind I said, "Welcome." Instantly, they all stopped and became completely still. Then one of them said, "O Tantric, give immediately what you promised to my master." I replied, "First complete the work you took, then I will give it." That was not the agreement. You were supposed to finish everything first. Only one has died so far, another is sick, but more remain. Hearing this, they all rose together and began to leave. Before going, they said, "O Tantric, you have become very clever, and your master is even more cunning. What your master had to do is already done, but your account remains, and it will be very terrible." After hearing this, I stood there silently for a while, then went back to sleep. The next morning, I went to the market to buy some household necessities. On my way back, I saw a fire service unit heading toward our area. I rushed home, but I was too late. I was very late. When I arrived, my entire house was engulfed in flames. After about 45 minutes, with everyone's effort, the fire was extinguished. In that fire, I was supposed to die, but instead my wife died. I understood that the fire was set deliberately, and Nahud Fadal had done it. I realized that Allah was punishing me for my sins. My heart broke completely. I had no one left. All love for life vanished, replaced by hatred for myself. After some days, I withdrew all my savings from the bank and sold my property. I got a good amount of money. I kept a small portion and donated the rest to the madrasa where my father had studied and worked as an accountant. Then I took to the roads again. I had no one left now, but this time, not in search of power, in search of redemption to escape my sins. For the past 2.5 years, I have been wandering from place to place. But in all this time, Nahud Fadal has never left me. I don't know if I will ever be free from this curse. I don't know if Allah will forgive me. After saying all this in one breath, Farid let out a long sigh and stopped. Hafiz Shah Huzur had listened attentively to every word. After a moment of silence, Huzur asked, "Farid, do you know the kalima?" Farid shook his head and said, "Huzur, I only know the first kalima. I used to know more, but now nothing comes to my tongue. I don't remember anything, not even a single verse of the Quran. I learned many things in childhood, but through practicing this forbidden knowledge, Allah has taken it all away from my memory." Hearing this, Huzur said, "I do not know whether Allah, the Lord of all worlds, will forgive you for your actions. But I do know this, no matter how great the sin, if someone sincerely seeks forgiveness from Allah, He does not turn them away. Along with your sins, there were also sacrifices in your life. With that as a means, shed tears and return to Allah, to the straight path. Sirat al-Mustaqim. Inshallah, Allah will show you mercy. I will try to find a solution for your problem, but I cannot promise anything. Your deeds, your actions are your only solution. Remember that. Tomorrow morning you will go with me to the madrasa and, in the presence of witnesses, formally return to Islam and begin practicing it sincerely. You were once a Muslim, but when someone engages in kufr practices, they leave their religion, whether Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, or Christian. You accepted a path of disbelief, so you are no longer within Islam. Now you must return and begin practicing again. Then we will see what can be done." Farid agreed and slept that night on the veranda of Huzur's house. During the night, after Tahajjud prayer, while Huzur was reciting tasbih, he heard someone greet him from behind. Without turning, he replied, "Rahman, come inside. You have heard everything from the man sleeping outside. Your task is to go to Sadr-e-Ala, the great elder, and report everything exactly as you heard it. Tell him I am waiting for his guidance." Rahman, the Muslim messenger Jinn, said, "Huzur, why are you giving shelter to this man? Shouldn't it be right for him to die at the hands of Shaitan?" Huzur replied, "No one dies except by the will of Allah. Yes, this man has committed great sins, but if he dies as a Muslim, perhaps Allah may forgive him. If we help him return to faith, will he not testify in our favor on the day of judgment? And if we abandon him today, will he not testify against us?" Hearing this, Rahman said, "Huzur, I have no argument against your reasoning." Saying this, he gave salam and left. The next morning, after Fajr prayer, Huzur woke Farid and took him to the madrasa.